must share with you. In Northwest Florida, there will be challenges ahead, and we have to be ready to tackle them. I do not suspect that in the Biden administration, there will be an extra effort to build the capabilities of our military, and we've benefited from that. You know what they're doing to our military right now? They're targeting them. They're looking at their Facebook page, their social media. Did you forward the wrong joke? Did you retweet the wrong tweet? Are you an extremist or a white supremacist? We got a lot of problems in America today, but the people who wear our uniform are patriots. They are not the problem, and we will not allow them to be targeted by a Department of Defense that's more interested in wokeness than winning. So if you know somebody in Northwest Florida or anywhere in the world wearing the uniform who's been targeted, you give them my number. You tell them to contact our office. We will fight for every one of them to ensure that they have an opportunity to express their patriotism through military service. We also have to ensure that this great country that we're protecting remains clean and splendid and wonderful. I grew up fishing in these bayous, boating in these bays, enjoying the fact that one of the reasons people love to come to Florida is that this is a beautiful place. And to be an America First servant, as I aspire to be, we cannot allow people to pollute and tarnish and make this place worse. Now, I'm not ready to sign up for the Green New Deal that centralizes power in Washington, D.C., that limits our ability to grow our economy. But if we could have a Green Real Deal that put our people first, that put our environment first, that encourage recycling and use of good energy, that ensured we were resilient so that what you saw in Texas with power systems failing didn't happen here in our country and in our state, I would be all for it. I think that a lovely environment is a cherished asset of this community, and it is something that our leaders should always be willing to fight for. Seems to me that more and more bad decisions are coming out of Washington, D.C. There's like nothing Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to print more money to send out to try to solve. And so if that is the case, we have to do a lot more in Florida to protect ourselves. We have to make sure that our 10th Amendment rights to have our state government and our local government more involved in the decisions that affect us are actually empowered, and that we actually fight to do that. And I'm sure glad that Florida's got the best governor in America in Ron DeSantis, because he will fight for us. He won't let us get run over by the powerful in Washington, D.C. We also have to ensure that we continue the environment of rising wages in America. We need an opportunity for people to be able to make more money, for businesses to be able to grow. Donald Trump led an invigoration of our economy unlike I had seen at any other point in my lifetime. Instead of money going offshore, money was coming back to America. Instead of all the taxes going to the government, businesses and entrepreneurs and regular folks were able to keep more of their money. And guess what? As a consequence, people did better. We were more successful. We were more ambitious, forward-leaning as a country. You know, now it seems like we've got a president who gives us less and less. He wakes up late and goes to bed early, kind of mutters and putters around the Oval Office. And if a president's just doing less and less, Washington shouldn't ask more and more of us. We should ask more of ourselves. We should defend our liberty, our constitutional rights, our ability to make our own decisions. And no matter what they do in Washington, we will never let this government take away our Second Amendment rights, our ability to protect ourselves, our families, our livelihoods, our businesses, and our children. Earlier day I was with our outstanding superintendent of schools, Marcus Chambers, and I'm sure glad in the state of Florida we have a place where we value student learning and development, and we have given parents the opportunity to actually send kids to school and to be able to learn. In a lot of places, they don't even have that right. When I travel the country, like the number one question I get is, what's it like in Florida? Where kids actually go to school, where you can actually go out to eat somewhere, see your friends. I believe that we can be a model for America. We could show the rest of them how to do it right, and we can have a good time in the process. Are you up for showing the rest of the country how we get it done in the Sunshine State? We will have tough fights ahead to defend our way of life, to defend our country, to defend our rights, to have the opportunity to go out and make our own choices about the ways in which we live. But I believe sticking together, we absolutely can get the job done. You know, in Congress, sometimes feels like I'm in the minority of the minority up there, because the Democrats, they don't care too much for me, and there are even some of the establishment Republicans who don't think my style of service is the right one. And that's really why I'm here, to thank all of you, because you give me the ability to approach this job in a very different way than most members of Congress. I think that Washington, D.C. has been corrupted by money and influence and PACs and lobbyists who are America last in what they want of our leaders. And I'm proud to stand before you as the only Republican in the entire United States Congress who will not accept a donation from a PAC or a lobbyist or a special interest in that town. You, the people of Northwest Florida, you are my only special interest, and I don't need anything better than that. And I think if we made those changes, government would be more responsive. Now, the Democrats, they had this idea that they were going to pass H.R. 1 to make government cleaner and honest and more responsive. You know what H.R. 1 did? It made our photo ID laws for voting illegal. Can you imagine that? Now, you got to get a photo ID to get a fishing license. You got to get a photo ID to drive. But to vote, something as important as voting, they want to make it where we don't have the opportunity to do that. Well, it's my hope that H.R. 1 dies its proper death in the United States Senate, and then we get to the business of protecting the integrity of the vote. Many of you remember that in the state of Florida, we were kind of the laughing stock of the country on the whole voting thing. Not us up in the Panhandle, we got it right. But don't you remember the hanging chads and the dangling whatevers down there in Palm Beach County and Broward County? Well, as painful as that was, as much as we had to tell all our friends and relatives that wasn't us, that was the rest of Florida, at least we showed we could fix the problem. I'm glad that in Ron DeSantis' first week, he fired the supervisor of elections in Palm Beach County and the supervisor of elections in Broward County. And guess what? Now we are a model for America. Folks knew how the state of Florida had voted. It was very easy. And by the way, it kind of makes sense to count the votes as they're coming in, right? That way, you know, each day you get a few hundred or a few thousand, you can make sure everything matches. Well, in some of these other places, like Georgia, they'd want to be counting hundreds of thousands of them the same day. And then, of course, what happens? You've divorced the voting process from the identification process that ensures that a human being actually intended to vote. But this didn't happen by accident. When Eric Holder, who was Barack Obama's Attorney General / wingman, when he left office, he went out on a very targeted campaign to get supervisors of elections elected that have their viewpoint, secretaries of state, to get their best operatives on boards like the Wayne County, Michigan Canvassing Board, where I still think they haven't actually accounted for the number of votes and the actual number of voters there in that state that got it wrong. But they went out to do this on purpose. And I don't want to be in the business they're in, of ballot harvesting and cheating. That is not who we are. We should never aspire to do that. But we must engage in a national campaign for photo ID for voting so that we know that a ballot cast was actually intended to be voted by a human being. And if the courts won't do their job, we have to do our job as the American people to get out there and make it happen. You know, if the state of Georgia had a river that was flowing into Florida, polluting our environment, we'd be able to sue them to stop it. And it seems to me that if they've got an election process that is polluting our republic,